think the hardest thing for me has been learning to let go of some of those things and trust my team members, but also how do I instill in them the same values that I have? And that's probably been my biggest learning curve is, resisting the temptation to do every single thing myself and to, really be a leader rather than a doer.
Welcome back to the Rubasha Family Podcast. We're here for something very special. I am here with the one and only CEO and founder of Peppermint IT, and also the CEO and founder of the Peppermint IT Sip and Solve podcast. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad to have you on, and I really, really appreciate you for taking the time. Obviously, we've been working together as we manage your podcast. You're a proud podcast founder. You've been doing amazingly well, and I wanted to have you on the show and kind of ask questions for like a lot of people wanting to hear answers, how to be a better CDO, you
Mhm.
know, updates in the tech AI space. So yeah, I wanted to welcome you and see how you're doing.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome, awesome. So look, I want to get straight away into it. I also like to use these conversations from a selfish point of view as well, like how I can
Mm.
improve, what I'm doing in life, because I realize there's so many other people out there who are going through similar things. So what I wanted to ask you is saving time. How can one save time more effectively?
So I would say my number one rule from a business sense is anything that needs to be done twice should be automated. So I get a little bit frustrated when I get given a task and it seems like it's going to take me a while to do it. And so I do spend a fair bit of time when I first get given a task thinking about, is there a way that I can make this more efficient? So, for example, we have a scorecard that has our budget for the next 10 years broken all the way back from 10 years back to this month. How many sales do we need to make? How many leads do we need? How many conversions do we need? That was a manual task for our sales team to go into our CRM and look at how many leads we've got and how many sales we've got. And that was frustrating for me and them. And so I spent a little bit of time thinking about how I can automate that process. And the way that I automated it was found an application that allowed me to pull data directly from our CRM into our spreadsheet. So that means that I don't need to have anybody spending time manually taking data from one place to the next. So it's really about looking at a task, and rather than just completing the task because somebody told you to do it, or somebody asked you to do it, thinking about, if I spend half an hour or an hour or even half a day on this task to automate it, how much time is that going to save me later on? So for me, it's mostly don't just do something because it's landed on your plate. Think about how it can be done better and how it can be done more efficiently.
Mm. The automation, I think that's a great place to also start. How are you able to automate things and then personalize them at the same time, right? Because like let's say you're automating, like you have a proposal or whatever it is. How do you manage where it's not too systematized or a robot, especially when it's dealing with customers? Certain things, yes, like you said, you
Mm.
can't automate. How do you manage to do that?
So, do you mean, can you give me a more specific? Because there's a lot of answers to this. I need something a little.
So let's say if I want to automate, like you said, if I'm doing something repetitively. So let's say if I'm continuously speaking to customers, or we want to continually reaching out. Let's say for people we've sent a proposal to, maybe they haven't acted on, or we've had communication in the past. How do you automate that and then
Mm.
personalize it at the same time?
So, how are you sending your emails? How are you sending out your proposals at the moment? Are you doing them in a Google Doc or a Word doc, or sending them as PDF? Or
So we like to personalize our proposal.
Mhm.
So we'll create it in a PDF, then it gets in a PDF file, and then we send it.
Mhm.
Send it.
Okay. And do you have a CRM?
Yes.
Mm. Okay. So, if your CRM has lots of information in it, you can use all of that information to personalize any output that's coming out of your system. I have spent the last 6 months looking at various proposal type applications for sending out proposals. And I've landed on one which I absolutely love. And the reason why I love it so much is it's totally integrated into our CRM. So we don't have to leave the CRM to send the proposal, it's connected. It uses tokens to connect through to the proposal. So if we want to do a proposal for a client, we start that from the CRM, and the CRM, the more information you can get inside of that, the more personalized you can be, because you do want a personal communication with all customers. You want them to be feeling special, and they are special. So the more information you can gather about them, I mean, we are even moving towards in our CRM putting notes in there about a customer's personality type. We came across somebody who said that they absolutely did that in a role that they worked in, and it just allows us to understand how to speak properly, to speak effectively, I guess, to customers that we're working with. So the proposal software that we found, if we click from within our CRM a button to create the proposal, it puts all of their information in there, their company information, the name of the person who we're sending it to. And it has building blocks. So whilst each one is personal, we're able to use standard building blocks that have standard prices in and standard information, so that everything goes out uniformly and it all looks the same, and we've got that kind of same branding, which builds trust if we've got consistency in the brand. But we can absolutely personalize it without too much work. So we've got some standard building blocks that can be personalized. So we've got standard procedures but lots of personal information, and that way we can automate those processes. And automation for me is not really about seeing how quickly we can get something done, but it's about how consistently we can communicate with people so that everybody's getting that same kind of personalized interaction from the business. And I think also that's one of the hardest things when you set up a business, is that if you, and I was a consultant for a long time, so you know how you want to present yourself and how you want customers to feel important and unique, and you reach out to them, and you're kind of seeing them all the time, and so you're asking questions about how they're feeling and what can we do to make things better. But when you start building a team, it's it's really hard to well, at first, I mean, it's not hard, you just need the processes of how can you get that same personalized service through the whole team, and the only way you can really do that is by being very consistent in your processes and your messaging.
Mm. So what CRM system do you use?
We use Zoho, and I really love Zoho because it comes with 51 different applications that are all pre-connected to each other. And so whenever I'm looking for a software solution for either us or a customer, I think most people would go to the pricing page to see how much it is per month. The first page that I go to is the integrations page, because I want to see how it's integrating with any other application that we're using. Um, I over the years, many times I've gone into companies, and their marketing department has put in an amazing sales CRM, and their operations department has an operations CRM, or a package that manages that, and then their finance department has something else, and you end up with a whole bunch of applications in the past that never talked to each other. So if a customer called and said my telephone number's changed, it got changed in one place but not the 15 other places where the telephone number belonged. Whereas it's so much easier now. The majority of packages now have APIs and integrations into packages. So I would rarely consider using a product that doesn't somehow integrate with our main CRM. So the one source of the truth, which all businesses should have, for us, that's Zoho. But it's not what we would recommend to all of our customers. It really depends. There's some amazing packages out there, Go High Level and HubSpot and Keep. There's lots of different ones. It really depends on your circumstance and what you're needing to get out of it. If you are um, a marketing business and you're selling services and marketing and memberships, then, go high level is great. For a company that has an operations base as well, like us, that kind of thing doesn't work for us because we need ticketing, we need time management, we need service management, we need to be able to manage the costs of what we're doing really effectively. Otherwise, we can't make money. So it does depend on your business and the level of complexity. Zoho is fairly complex, but it does allow us to also um, really customize it. So it allows you to change the names of the modules, the fields within the modules. You can add new modules. You can create your own written. We're in the middle of writing a portal for one of our customers, which is a complete custom build on the Zoho module, and there's not many applications that you can do that with. So we use Zoho. We find it really flexible and works really well for us.
Mm. I actually yeah, so I've you just mentioned go high level.
Mm,
I'm trying it.
yep.
I just signed up and I want to see. We've been using Pipedrive, but it's
Yep.
because yeah, like I want to be able to like can you imagine automating, emails going out like to people you've met in the past, from every stage of where they are. I think that's quite powerful. So I think ever since I met you and you said, what are you
Mm,
doing? What are you doing repetitively that you can
mm,
automate?
yep.
That really stuck in my head, and so it's like just that's
Mm.
been kind of a little bit of a challenge is how can we get that system in place?
It's really, for me, I think, the foundation of any business. And I remember, 7 or 8 years ago when I was growing this business, a friend of a friend's who had a business said, he said, you can set it up and just keep your costs low and don't worry about, like, just put all your stuff in an Excel spreadsheet. That's all you need to start with. And I was like, that's the dumbest bit of advice I've ever, not dumbest, I wouldn't say dumb, but I was like, that from a tech perspective, that's not the advice that I would give people. I would say, like, get a database, get a CRM, and start from there, because that gives you from day one everything you need to know about every client that you're working with. The email address, like, so you're communicating with them. You know what their touch points are. Um, you know when they've been to the website, how many times they've been to your website, what pages on the website are they going to. So you know from the beginning of their journey how they're interacting with you, and it's really important. And then there's simple databases. Zoho has a baby database called Big, and it's like next to it's like $20 a month or something. And it's great for a startup. HubSpot is also great for startups. It has, they do, I think for startups, they do like 95, but better not say, I don't know exactly, but they give a huge discount for the first year so that you can get set up and running. So, if you're starting up, you can get some really good bargains on a CRM to start with. But it really, so long as you're using something, as you grow, you can change and use different packages. But if you've got something, then you've got somewhere else to go.
And what are on some other stuff, kind of going to the personal life in terms of saving time. So I'll wake up at 4 or 4:30 or 5 just so I can have more time out of my day. And I still find myself running out of time because I look at my list and then there's just so many things to do. And actually, I was helping a client record a podcast, and the guest was like, he was like, get 5 things, like go for 5 things, because he said you have so many lists and all of those things are so important. I was like, oh yeah, that's so true. Every time I look at what I need to do, they're all as important as each other. So he said, tick 5 things that you can do and just do those 5 things. What are some tips that you would give to save time, I guess, and then
Mm.
at the same time have a like really productive day?
Yes, it's a good question, and I think it's great if you can wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You may not be able to do that when you're a bit older. And also when you have kids, they'll have you up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and 4 o'clock might not seem such a good idea. So it's amazing that you can get more time out of your day by sleeping a little bit less. But sleep is super important. And if you're not sleeping for long enough, then your brain is not resting and recuperating and getting ready for the next day. So so I would say make sure you get plenty of sleep would be the first plan, and having a routine around that. And there's a lot of science around how much sleep you need. my son is studying to be a neuroscientist, and he was telling me the story about Michelangelo, who was painting the system, and he had this plan where if he worked for 2 hours, slept for 2 hours, worked for 2 hours, slept for 2 hours, he would be more productive in his day. And so that seems like a great idea at the outset, but what they've found when they did more research, but specifically on his brain, he died quite young, was that 2 hours is not enough for your brain to regenerate. And so all the toxins and all the stuff that's happening throughout the day is collecting in your brain. And it needs 4 hours of solid sleep to clean out, 8 hours to completely clean out and rejuvenate and refresh. So I'm not a specialist on those, but I do listen to a lot of podcasts on sleep. So I would say having a routine around your sleep is really helpful. Whether it's, if you do a lot of exercise, I think you can probably, from personal experience, I feel like when I'm fitter, I need a little bit less sleep. But having that routine, I think, around waking up, because that takes a whole lot of stuff out of your brain that you don't have to think about. I think writing your to-do list at the end of the previous day. So if you're at the office and you know that you've got a bunch of stuff to do tomorrow, I do time management courses using Outlook as your time management. So you need some kind of tool for whatever it is, if it's Google Keep or whatever package that you're using for your time management. Personally, for me, I have my inbox is just my to-do items. So it's like the old-fashioned inbox that's on your table. If it doesn't need to be done, or I don't need to, or it's just somebody sent me an email that I just need to look at, it's archived straight away. So I make a decision very quickly on every email that comes in. It either needs to be responded to, I've read it and I don't need to do anything, and then it just goes out of my inbox, or it's not relevant to me and I delete it. So every item has an action. If it's something that I need to do, then I make time to do that. And I do that by dragging it either into the task box or into a calendar. So if it's an email where somebody says, I'd love to meet with you about this, how about next week? I go, yep, that's great. I click and drag it and move it into the calendar. It's out of my inbox. It's out of my brain. It's scheduled for next week. I don't need to think about it unless there's a task that's associated, which I'll also create a task for. So I then use the task manager to manage the tasks that I need to do each day. And so it's really, I think a lot about moving stuff out of your brain and into a place where it's going to happen. Because if you've just got 100 things inside your brain, it's messy. And it is hard to say, what are the 5 things that I need to do today? Because I think that's a great idea. Like,
Mm. Like when I heard about it, I was like, yeah, that is a good idea. And to be honest, going back to the sleep, I do see what you're saying because I felt moments like I would still look at myself. I'm like, this is not sustainable. I find myself,
mm,
dozing off. And
mm,
one time I had an auntie, she came over, she slept at our house. And then I think she came like late. She saw me here. And then I was up early. And then she said to my mom, she was like, no, he's like, he has to sleep. Like, she was like, that's, you can't keep doing that. Yes, you might do that now, but when you get up, she was like, no. So I was like, yeah, I need to get more sleep. And I
mm,
can see what you're saying. I do have a lot of energy, but
yeah,
yeah, you do need to get that sleep. So it's about how
yeah,
can you, like you said, just have those systems in place.
mm.
Um, to get
And I
through that.
think, yeah, I was listening to a book earlier this year. I can't remember which one, but it kind of said, if you think that you're never getting enough sleep, you're probably never going to. But if you think you are getting enough sleep, then you probably do. So it's a little bit more about saying, what does my body need? And like I said, like, you're pretty fit and you're pretty active, and so you do have a lot of energy, but
Mm,
you need to be getting at least 6 or 7 hours sleep, I'd be saying.
mm. On
My
onto
mum
another
voice
topic.
talking now.
Onto another topic.
Yeah.
What are some challenges that you face as a CEO, as being, the head, the number one, it all comes down to you. What are some of the challenges that you face that no one may know about?
I would say it is about that consistency um of how we work and treat our customers, because as a business owner, you set up a business really because you're passionate about what it is that you do, and you want to make a difference to people's lives. In my case, it's their business life. I want to make it, I want to be able to use all of the things that we've learned and collectively as a team, um, about what we do every day, which is work with technology. And so it's kind of, I would love to have those interactions and to work on every single project that comes into the business. But I think the hardest thing for me has been learning to let go of some of those things and trust my team members. But also, how do I instill in them the same values that I have? And that's probably been my biggest learning curve, is, resisting the temptation to do every single thing myself, and to really be a leader rather than a doer.
And, which a lot of people go through as well. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I read in Lazy CEO, and it talks about like the different roles of a CEO, and it talks about a CEO being in player mode, and it says you, as much as you want to be in player mode, you've got to step out of there. You only got to be in player mode when you need to be, or when you can use it to train, you can use it to teach, you can use being a player mode. So it's saying like you should be in player mode about 20% of your time, something like that.
Yeah.
So like kind of I can see what you're saying there. Talking
Mm.
about like a service-based business,
Yeah.
my question to you is, because when you do a service, you're always wanting to improve. You're always wanting to be better. You can't just be like what we're giving our customer now, 6 months, we got to be better. We got to
Mm.
improve. We got to improve on our podcast episodes. Like the trailers got to be like what it looked like 6 months ago. Our trailers look different now. So like
Mm.
that service is always going to be there. Um, so what are your thoughts on like when you have a service-based business? Is it tiring for people to continue, because you got to keep improving, right?
Mm.
So what are your thoughts on that, on like is that, does that come down to the team, does that come down onto the systems, on continuing to scale and still having that? Because if when I look at it, it's like, what's the lifetime value of, how do I continually keep a customer happy, right?
Mm.
So what's your advice there, and what are your thoughts about service-based businesses on having that longevity? Because you can do it for 1 year, 2 years, cool, but 10 years delivering that, so does that come down to the team? What does that come down to without someone maybe getting tired, or, you know, want burnt out, some people say.
Yeah. Um, Fantastic question. And there's a couple of points I think inside of that. I think the first point for us as a tech business is it's probably a little bit easier because technology changes every single day. And so for us it's about keeping up with technology. And I think that's why it's a field that I've always loved, because even if you spend 3 years at university studying tech, it's kind of irrelevant, because by the time you're out, it's totally changed. AI has arrived, or I had a child and was off work for a year and the internet was invented. And so you can't take your eye off the ball for a minute in technology. So in terms of getting better and staying fresh with our customers, it's really about keeping our eyes and ears open and following things, on social media and the internet, about how things are changing, and really keeping up to date with all of that. We kind of, as a team, we have a chat channel that is really just dedicated to that. If you see something or if you hear something that looks interesting that we haven't seen before, and we all just post it in the channel, and then somebody learns about it, and then we share the knowledge, and then we send it out to our customers as new knowledge. So in our industry it's not that difficult, but in a lot of industries it's similar. There's new things happening, there's new things that can change, there's new ways of doing things. And I think when I kind of started developing and working with this time methodology, the last letter E is really enhancing continuously. And that's about not putting a system in place and saying, oh, I spent $30,000 putting this CRM in, or this piece of software or whatever, and now I'm not, that's going to last me for 10 years. It's not. You just really need to be thinking continuously about how you can do things better. And even the third letter of time is monitoring, and it's really monitoring continuously. Like what worked for you 2 years ago might not work for you now. Things have changed. You've got more staff, or you've got less staff, or your customers have changed, or the needs have changed. So if you're not monitoring it, you can't manage it and you can't measure it. So you need to be looking every day at what's going on and how you can enhance it and how you can make it better. And the results will tell you if you've got the right systems in place, and you're monitoring them properly, and you're looking at things like YouTube statistics and Google Analytics. And in your business, that's what you're looking at. What are people watching and how they're watching it, and how can you enhance and improve that. So it's really looking at the stats to see, was this month better than last month? Why was it? Why wasn't it? And just being, I think, really aware of the results that you're getting is what you can then use to enhance whatever systems and things that you have in place to make things better. So I think it's about that, and then continuously, um, I guess, communicating with your clients about what's new and how you can improve and what happened last month and what's going to happen. We do comprehensive reporting for our customers every month, and it's not, there's systems that can just spit out reports, but we do a PowerPoint presentation where we've analyzed the results and we've looked at things, and we can give feedback on, this is what's happening with your systems, this is what we think that you can do to improve some of those results.
I think what you just said there was is really intriguing in terms of having kind of live updates from the team of what's happening in the moment, right? Like what is some new trends or what is new updates? I think that's really really quite powerful. Um,
Yeah.
who came up with that idea? Like what made you kind of that's
I
really
think,
smart.
well, yeah, I mean, I think that it was always something that is relevant, particularly in tech, is keeping up with what's going on. But we have, as part of our Zoho application, we have an app called Click, which is the same, really similar to like Slack, or one of those kind of um, chat tools that you use in businesses. And we have various channels for that. So we have like an all team channel, which just has information about what's going on. We have a social media channel. You just throw social media stuff in there, or content, or pictures of being out on site with the tech, or the dog sleeping, whatever it is that goes in the social media chat. And so we kind of have these various chat channels, and then we have a channel for each customer. So whatever's going on with that customer is inside that channel, and it's easy to go back and find all of the information about what's happening with a customer. So it's just a way of communicating within the business, and that's a fairly new technology that Slack really made very popular in the last 4 or 5 years. And and I think that's been a real game changer, because it really allows us to communicate as a team in real time, and it kind of takes all of that general chit chat out of email. So emails essentially for external communications, whereas our chat channels are our internal communications.
Wow. Okay. Um, and then next question I wanted to ask you,
Mm.
what are some trends you'll see in the tech space right now? What can you, because for someone like me who's not into tech like that or doesn't understand much, it's still important, especially for us business owners who we need tech, right? It's so important what you do and it's valuable and everyone needs it. And like, to be honest, when I look into it, like we manage the technocracy podcast, we manage them, and like it's a big industry. It's a gold mine for me. It's because it's the future. It's what everyone needs. So what are you seeing right now in the tech space? What's happening? What can other CEOs out there who are running businesses, whatever businesses they have, um, can look out for?
In terms of pitfalls, I mean, I guess in terms of the tech space and new technology that's coming out, there's obviously a lot of content around the AI space, and there's lots of people talking about the change that is making and will make in our business. Um, I I think that's obviously something that we need to keep up with and take advantage of at every point in time that we can. And I totally take advantage of it. In fact, this morning I had AI create me a scorecard, set up a scorecard, write me a blog post, write me a 30-second script. I recorded the script, posted it on LinkedIn, all within an hour. And that is something that without AI would have taken a week and a half, even a year ago. It would have taken a week and a half to get all of that set up and organized. So there's definitely, a lot of AI developments that are really allowing us to implement a lot of productivity in our lives. What I would say as a pitfall for technology is, even 10 years ago, computers and systems and the workforce was a lot less technology focused than it is now. And so what we're getting now is a lot of people who understand technology, who feel comfortable with it, um, who don't run away from it, who don't go, I don't want to know about that. That's somebody else's job. So what I think we're finding a lot now is people are doing a lot of their IT and a lot of their tech themselves. So we'll get a lot of clients who say, oh yeah, no, we've got this guy who does all of our internal tech. And I'm like, does that guy have another job? Oh yeah, he's an engineer, or he's a, he's a physiotherapist or whatever, but he's the person in the office who knows the most about technology. And so he's the tech person. And, and the issue with that is that person actually has a job, and they're just the nice person who's just getting dumped with two jobs. But also, it's impossible to keep up with all of the changes around security and infrastructure, and how fast it's moving. I've got 7 people sitting outside my window at the moment, all who have a different strength in tech. And so I think we're not really in a world where people are starting to feel a lot more comfortable with tech, not not potentially placing as much importance on having a tech team that can support you, that is making sure that your systems are up to date, that your patches are done. I mean, if you've got a computer that hasn't had an update in 6 months because you just keep going, oh, I'm too busy today, I'm not going to do that update. That's where vulnerabilities and that's where security concerns happen. And so, the patching and the updates, if you don't know that they're happening across your team, and you don't have a software application that manages that for you, that's a big security risk in a business. And so, I think security and scams and fraud and all of that kind of stuff is unfortunately a really big part of our world today. It's,
Mm,
the way that the criminals are getting smart.
mm,
And I think that's one of the things that we really need to be careful of. And I think, 10 years ago, IT was barely a P&L line in your in your finance reports, but it needs to be a big part of your P&L now, because it runs your entire business. And so I think getting just kind of getting your head around the fact that actually we need to spend money on tech now. And even packages, I just think everything that I sign up for is another $50 a month or another $100 a month. I mean, this package that I found to integrate Excel into, or our Zero accounts and our CRM into our Excel planning sheet, is bloody amazing. It's another $150 a month. so so subscriptions, we spend a ridiculous amount of subscriptions. They all integrate and they all save money. But the fact that I don't have to have a staff member or 2 staff members, as was the case, spending a half a day on a Monday trying to get those numbers out and put them in the report where they needed to be, is clearly saving that cost. But yeah, ongoing IT costs, I think, is something that needs to be addressed.
yeah. It's funny that you say that because I work with like a CFO once a
Mm,
week, and so we were looking, and then the subscriptions, and then I was looking at the numbers, like, wow, okay,
mm,
subscriptions there, yeah, that's quite
mm,
a high list on there. But it's like I was telling him, like, maybe some I could kind of look to remove, but I'm like, bro, like I need them. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like,
mm.
So I definitely feel you on that one. So also, you're a keynote speaker,
Yeah.
you have a podcast, obviously you've been working with us.
Mm,
Life for you now, like imagine now it's a Tuesday, you're recording a podcast, right? Where usually you'd maybe be working, and especially within your space, tech, a lot of, especially founders like yourself, they're very technical, they're in, like they're working in the business, and they don't really have the time to work on the business, like doing what you're doing. As I said, it's a Tuesday. Now you have podcast recordings. You're building the business. You're being the face of the business. You're getting out there. This is just
Mm,
the start. You're just gonna keep doing it, keep doing it. Where most of your time now is literally you're on TV shows. You're there. You're here, and everything's coming in the business. So can you talk to
mm,
us a little bit about what made you want to start having a podcast? What made you want to start getting yourself out there? What I did notice, and I noticed this with so many people that we work with, is like they always had YouTube channels. Like I see this with so many people. I'm like, oh my goodness! Like I saw with you, you always had a YouTube channel. I could see you've always wanted to kind of do it, but maybe there wasn't maybe the time, and so what kind of made you want to do that, especially as I said in your space, because not many people do it, especially
mm.
tech as well. So yeah, I wanted to kind of get your journey on it, and your visions for the future as well.
Well, it's really, yeah, I mean that last paragraph is what it's about. It's the vision of the future. It is, where do I want to be in 5 and 10 years time? And I think, for a while I was like, oh, I'm going to build this great business and then I'm going to sell it and then I'm going to retire. And the fact is that I don't want to sell it and I don't want to retire. I want it to run itself and I want to have the choice about what it is that I do on a daily basis. And so part of growth is really about what we were talking about before, which is doing less of the hands-on and building the business. And building the business is about how can we get our service and our offering in front of as many people as possible, because lots of people need it. They just don't know we're here. So it's really about how we can be better at what we do, how we can communicate how well we do our job and what's different about us to other IT companies. And it's not even like we need to be in competition with them, because every single business needs a tech company to support them. So there's plenty of work for us all to do. But it's really for me about spreading the message that technology shouldn't be daunting. It should be our friend. There's ways that we can make it work with us. It's really kind of changing that perspective for me on tech just being something that the geek people do, to you can actually run. Like I would prefer particularly smaller home businesses. I don't want them to have to rely on us. We want to show them how they can manage things themselves until the point that they're too busy and it doesn't make sense for them. So it's really for me making IT more personal. It's making it more friendly. It's how do we get our base out there as technology really being something that people can relate to rather than feel conflicted about. And the only way that I can do that is by talking about it, and by making sure that I can talk about it in a relatable way, and that I can support the staff members, because as I build the team, I clearly need to be making sure that we've got enough sales to come in the door, that we can have an amazing team that can support our customers. And so that it's just part of the growth for me. And then it's about consistency and about making sure that we don't just do it once and then go, oh, that was a good idea, and get too busy doing other things. And that's part of, I kind of try to structure my week. So Monday is Money Monday, and that's we do admin and make sure all the money stuff is sorted and check the P&L and all of that kind of stuff that I used to hate but actually don't mind now. I kind of try to set that aside for Monday. And then Tuesdays is marketing day, and Wednesdays I do networking, and Thursdays I do actual work. And so I kind of try to structure my week so that I kind of know what I'm doing, and there's gaps where if there's issues that happen and I need to have meetings or go out and do things, then there's gaps in that space. But it's really about building a business that's sustainable, and making sure that all my lovely staff are very happy, because if they're not happy, they're not going to make our customers happy.
Exactly. It makes sense. Tuesday, marketing day, and that's why you're here doing this podcast. Wait, did we do that on purpose, or was that by coincidence?
No, your lovely assistant reached out to me and said, "Can you do Tuesday morning?" And Tuesday morning is blocked out for marketing, and I was like, "Well, that's a marketing activity, so yes, I can."
Wow, that made so
so
much sense.
so
Yeah,
it turned out like you.
yeah, and then Friday's the podcast day.
Friday is generally a try to leave it open for appointments and working things, tidying up all of the bits and pieces from the week. So I try to leave Friday afternoon free so that I can tidy up any bits of work that need to get done and get everything planned for the next week.
Mm. And so my question is, what's your vision for the podcast? Like, what do you what's your vision? What's your dream? And also, I did want to say what you said about retirement. It's so true. Like I tell people all the
Mm,
time. I mean, I'm not close to there, but I was saying that you retire when you die. There's no such thing as retirement. People have this notion, oh, you retire when you die. Like this thing where we like, I believe I'll be doing this when I'm 90 old. I'll still be doing this, right? Because yeah, retirement is at death. So I think exactly what you said earlier. It's like, well, no, I'm still keep doing this. Even the business is still bringing in, whether I choose to sell it or not. I'm still just be living in my purpose, talking about this, talking, sending messages to my grandchildren, like being out here, like this. For me, personal branding, this stuff, it will never stop because it's your
mm.
purpose, it's your mission to keep going. So, what's your vision for your podcast?
So I think the purpose and mission is really quite insightful because when they say if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life, and I love what I do. Like I'm excited to come. I wake up in the morning and I'm excited. I just have a list of things in my head. I know what needs to be done during the day, and I'm excited to get to the office every day. I like actually am, and even I was doing some kind of coaching thing where the the lady said you're a business owner. You can take every Friday off and you can finish at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was like, well, what am I going to do then? I don't have anything else to do. The kids have grown up. I don't have any sport to take anybody. I don't like, there's no driving that needs to be done. I leave home and I come home in the afternoon and the house is exactly how I left it. So my partner does the washing and mostly cooks dinner. So I kind of am in a place where, I actually love what I do, and quite often, my partner will say, "Oh, are you finished work?" He said one day, "Are you finished work?" And I was like, that's never going to happen, right? So now we just call it change location. So, are you ready to change location? And I just leave the office at some point between 5 and 7:30, and I change location and I work at home for the evening, depending. Like you need to kind of very clearly understand when you hit that wall or where you go, that's it, I just can't, I need to take 2 days off. But there's just so much to do and so many things to think about. And when it is your business and you have that kind of mindset, there's always a new idea, always thinking about something else that I can do. And it's exciting to do new stuff. So I don't have any real vision of retirement. Um, and I think that would only be if I was doing a job that I really didn't love and I was just waiting till I got to 62 and then I would be able to retire and not do this horrible 9 to 5 job. But I love working. I've always loved it. And but basically we just come to work and help people all day. And so there's a lot of satisfaction in the work that we do, and finding having a happy customer who we've saved some time for, or we've made something better for them is what drives me. So
Mm.
yeah, so I don't really have any vision for retirement. In terms of the podcast, I'm kind of keen to, because I'm super nosy and I don't know that as many people are as nosy as me about what people use for their technology stacks. But I'm really interested, and there must be some other people who are interested. Like, I want to know, like, do you use Google or Microsoft, or what phone do you have? Or, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of like people talk about cars. Which model of car do you love? I like to talk about technology. And so I just kind of hope that other people do too, because then there's a bit of interest in how are people using technology to run their lives and save themselves time.
Awesome,
Mm,
awesome. So before we leave, a couple more things. Um, okay, one thing before I ask you the next question. You talked about looking at your P&L.
mm,
How often do you do that? Is that once a week? Like I was listening to someone else, And then he was saying like you should have a flash report and you should read it every day. So I was talking to my CFO and I was like, should I have a flash report? And I should, because I don't enjoy doing that stuff. I hate doing it. But like I can see how you're saying you enjoy doing it now, because I was like, when I was looking at it today, I was like, I can see how it's good to what, because the guy was saying you need to know your numbers, you need to know your numbers, and I've been lacking at that because I'm doing this stuff and I'm editing, I'm looking at videos and I'm doing this, and I get to do that stuff and I hate doing it, but it's very very important because it's the lifeline of your business. So this is just a side question because I like to learn. How often do you check your P&L or check the finances?
I would say 3 times a day.
3 times a day?
Yep, at least. And bank account, I would probably check the bank account, probably more.
Really?
Yes. And it becomes very important, I guess, in this size of business. I feel like, if you're at the next level, if you're, 5 times my size and you've got people who do that for you and they just tell you every day, that's fine. But at this in this size, when you've got a number of staff and you have and really we're kind of driven now by, we're in a growth phase, so we need to grow, and I need to be monitoring that, and I need to be doing that very carefully. And so it's it's just always this fine balance of, we want to take on more customers. Do we have enough staff? We've got some part-time, we've got some full-time. At what point do those part-time need to go full-time? And then, like, can we get a really big customer? Do we have the capacity to do that? And so it's really about, understanding the cash flow. And in a business of this size, the cash flow will kill you in a month. And so you have these months where you're waiting for people to pay, and it's like, well, it's a bit stressful. But you just and I think 5 years ago I used to look at it and go, oh my god, that's too stressful, I don't want to look at it anymore, and I'd kind of ignore it for a day or two. But it's really now less about looking at it and feeling stress, but really learning how to be empowered by those numbers. Like, as we grow, what do we want our budget to be this month, and what do we want our budget to be the next month, and how are we going to provide a service as we increase our customers and as we increase our staff. And so it's super important to be able to understand the invoices that are going out, the invoices that are coming in, but also checking that against the time that we're spending. So we have a very um, you know, we're a very robust time management system where we can really manage what we're charging against what time we're spending with our staff. And that, it's basically my job to make sure that that's all running
So
smoothly.
you'll look at the time your team spends to do a task
Hmm. Hmm.
compared to how much now you charge them,
Hmm.
and that's exactly also what the CFO was saying as well, to look. Yeah, so it's good. So he was saying, yeah, you got to look at the time it spends for the team, and
Hmm.
then so that's what
Yeah.
you do as well.
Mm. Yeah, so it's fine if you're a solopreneur and you just work your ass off and money just comes in at the end of every month and you just get to reinvest it or spend it or buy groceries or whatever. But once you've got to the point where you have staff and GST and superannuation and holiday leave loading and all of the stuff that goes along with that. It's like you need to be on top of it, and you let it slide for 3 or 4 days. And it's like, oh my God, well, what happened in those 3 or 4 days? Like, I've got a salesperson now, and I've got an account manager, and I've got a tech team, and managing what the tech team is doing to ensure that they're, not wasting time, that they're doing things as quickly as possible, that we're charging our clients correctly, that we're being upfront about when projects are about to run over, or if their recurring monthly income has reached its limit. It's easy when you've got a small team to just keep doing this stuff because you just want them to be happy, but there has to be, a limit where you can say, this is how much time you've paid for and this is how much service we can give you for that. And it's, kind of getting your head around not just wanting to look after everybody and be nice to everybody, but running a business that's sustainable and that can grow. And
Wow.
yeah.
Mm. 3 times a day. Wow. Yeah. And it's so, yeah, look, that's what he was saying in the book. He said you should have a flash for every single day you're looking at it. Awesome. Last question. Who's your next podcast guest? You want to let people know, or is that a
Mm.
secret?
My next podcast guest is tomorrow, and it's Brendan Lee, and he is a marketing genius. So we're going to talk to him all about his tech and what he uses and how he helps people, and get some really great tips on digital marketing.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you guys heard it here first. Make sure you go and subscribe. Peppermint IT Sip and Solve. And you can also subscribe to the Rubasha Family Podcast. It's been amazing. Obviously, working with your podcast, and like we said, it's like, how can we get towards that vision, and just keep growing, keep building that personal brand. I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
Unfortunately, I can see on Riverside today, for some reason, it didn't go live. But this will be on
you.
YouTube. It will be on YouTube. We'll pop it on your channel, on our channel, pop it out there, because I think this was a very valuable conversation. So I really want to thank you so much for your time today. It was really good.
Thank
And
you.
I think also now, because I want to be doing this every month. So I think Tuesday it was perfect. Tuesdays
Well,
is your day, so
thanks.
you can be scheduling.
Tuesday
Do
marketing day. Yep.
Yeah, your marketing day, and I think
I
this
know. I
so
got that idea from someone at the beginning of this year. I can't remember who. Somebody said Money Monday, and I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." So yeah, Money Monday. Make sure all the invoices out. Chase anything that hasn't come in. Make sure that everything's on track. We just do all money stuff and admin stuff. It's a good day to do it. Get it all sorted and then move on.
yeah, Tuesday marketing. Okay,
Tuesday
perfect.
marketing.
Thanks, guys, for watching, and
Okay.
we'll talk later, always.
Nice to chat. See ya.
Yeah.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're going to love that one.